I have a powerful story to tell you today, and it takes us to Mark chapter 12, verse 41 through 44. But before we jump into that, I just want to share my personal experience with this. Growing up as a young child who didn't have too much money to give, I always wondered if God was happy enough with what I was giving him. I was seeing people put 20s and 10s into the offering basket at my church, and I was always curious. I'm always putting in like two quarters or something, just something I picked up off the ground or something, you know? Nothing I really worked for or earned, but it was kind of just something that I could help give to the church that, I wasn't giving normally. And I was wondering if God was happy enough with what I was giving him. And then I read this verse from Mark. So Jesus was watching people going into the temple, and he was seeing people give money to the offering basket, or what they would call the treasury at that time. And Jesus observed many people throwing lots of coins in, a ton of varying different amounts. But then he saw a poor woman walk in with only two small copper coins. And he saw her walk up to the offering basket and drop those two small copper coins in. Very minuscule compared to everyone else in the church. But here's the thing that they didn't know. That was all she had. So when you look at the proportion of how much she gave versus what the other people gave, she gave everything. She gave 100% of what she had to the offering, while everyone else was giving 10%, 20%, whatever it may be, whatever the amount was. This is simply not to discount what percentage you give to the church. What I'm trying to proclaim here is that it's not always about the amount that you're giving. It's about how much from the heart that you are giving. That's what matters ultimately when you give to Jesus. It's not about a certain set percentage of what you give, because that percentage is not what's going to buy you more favor with God. It's about how much from your heart you're giving. What are you giving from your heart? Your heart is the most precious thing to God. And when you give all of your heart to Jesus, he is satisfied. The thing I really want to highlight here is if you're just giving to the church just because you're told to, and you see that as missing money from your wallet, you're like, oh, I could afford this bill if I didn't give it to the church, then that's not giving from your heart. That's just giving out of duty, out of feeling like that's what you should do as a Christian. There's a difference between wanting to do something and having to do something. To put that in perspective, when you get home, you have to do your chores. You don't want to do your chores. A lot of people don't want to get up for work, but they have to get up for work. A lot of people don't want to spend money on groceries, but they have to spend money on groceries. It's very important when you're giving to the church, give from your heart. Don't give out of a grudge that you're like, oh, I got to pay 10% to the church this week. It's another bill I couldn't pay for. You have to think of it as, what is your heart giving to Jesus when you give that amount of money? Do you feel like you're giving him your all? Do you feel like you're trusting him with your finances like he calls you to do? If you do, then God's proud of you. And if you don't, if it feels like a grudge to you to give to the church, then I advise you just to read through the Bible and try to understand the meaning of tithing. It's not just to take your money. I feel like there's many reasons that tithing is put in the Bible. While it's a tool to help spread the word of Christ and to build up fundraising, it's also a way of preventing money being your God. Because a lot of people do that nowadays. There is a love of money. And in the Bible, it says the love of money is the root of all evil. But needing money to survive and wanting to make more is not a sin. But it's the love of money and putting love above God that starts to highlight a major sin problem. Just remember that when you go to your church this week and you're about to give to the church. Ask yourself this: what am I giving from my heart to Jesus? Not the amount, not the percentage. What am I giving God from my heart in this tithe? Thank you guys for watching. God bless.